Hello, hello. I really do need to figure out how to get some music on there because it's pretty quiet in here today, which is good. I'm Amanda. I'm with Blue Highway Games, and I am here to talk this week about our features, which are all from a certain publisher, and that publisher is out of France. I mean, they have a base here in the US as well, but it's Iello Games, or Iello Games. And they are most known for their work on King of Tokyo, which has been a huge seller for many, many years, and a big fan of game nights on tables everywhere, fighting monsters in Tokyo or King of New York even. There's a sequel. But they have lots of other great games for kind of all ages. They do tend to run a little bit more on the family side, but they've definitely got heavier strategy games. I've got kind of the whole gamut today, from a younger kids game all the way up for a slightly older, kind of bigger box strategy game. I've got a new game for you, a 2-player, and kind of a party game that they have. Not really official party game, but it's definitely a party to play. So the first one, as always, I like to talk about the youngest one, and this is called Little Battle. And I'm holding that up, and you can say, well, Amanda, that doesn't say Iello on it. It says Loki. Well, that is kind of the younger imprint from Iello for kids games. So they're definitely younger than their normal kind of 8-10 range. This is 5+, and it's a little card game of pirates, and you are hoping to get treasure. It's going to teach kids kind of some very early drafting. The treasure chest cards get shuffled up and put into 2 piles, and then all players are going to get dealt a hand of these little battle cards. There's yellow, red, and blue, so 3 different suits with the numbers on the top. And to start each round, you're going to look at your hand of cards, and you're going to choose one that you want to keep into your pile, and then you pass the cards to the next player. They're going to look at them, keep one, until they've gone all the way around the circle, and you have a new hand of cards. Then it's time to go looking for the treasure. So players are going to see 2 treasure chests, but they don't know what's in those treasure chests yet, and they know what colors they are. And in order to open a certain color, you need to play down a character card of that color. And the trick is everybody's going to do it at the same time, simultaneously. So they play down the card, they flip it over. If you are the only person at that treasure chest and you are the right color, then you just get to take that card, keep it secret. Some of them are going to have lots and lots of treasure in them, and some of them are going to have no treasure in them. So you don't know what you're going to get till you open it, and you keep your pile of treasure under your sailboat, which they come with these lovely little sailboats for all the players. And then you kind of repeat through rounds. If you do not play the right color, or you do not win the battle, it will be the card on the top of the pile is claimed by the player who did, and then if you may end up being able to win the secondary color, but you don't know what color is underneath it, so you're sort of like, well, maybe there'll be a blue under there, so you play blue on a red chest. You can't open that one, the other player wins, and it goes down. If multiple players win, you are assessing number values, so 8 would beat the 5 or the 6, and so then the 8 would claim the first one, then you go down to the next one, and you might get lucky. So you want to collect lots of different treasure chests to store them under your ship, and whoever has the most treasure at the end of the game wins. So it's a pretty straightforward little drafting game for kids ages 5+, but it's not uninteresting for families or older kids or parents to play. I think it was fun just to play even with a group of adults at work. So that is Little Battle from Iello. Imprint for kids games called Loki, and it normally runs at $11.99, and it'll be 20% off through next Thursday, February 4th. So do let me know in the comments if you have any questions as I go. I'll try to keep an eye on that, and for those of you watching later on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. So that's the first one. The next one I want to talk about is the semi-party game out by Iello, and that is called Ninja Academy. And it's not a party game like you would think Taboo or Charades, but it is definitely an interactive game. You will not be just sitting in your seat at the table as you play this. There are cards, but it is not a card game. You are all students at this little dojo, and Depending on the number of players, you kind of have a set series of rounds on one of these cards that's pulled out. So this is for 4. And the symbol on the card tells you what type of battle is going to ensue. And it always starts with a group battle. There's 2 decks of cards for the one-on-ones and the group battles. When it's a group battle, you draw the top card off the deck. Everybody can see what is about to happen. Somebody reads off the back, and then you begin. Now, the group battles might be things like the contents of the box, which include a bunch of these little meeples, which are these little people, some posts or little wooden stakes, and some little tatami mats. And it'll be something that everybody can be engaged in. They're usually dexterity, balancing, stacking, even throwing. But for these group games, it might be all the pieces get put in the box and shaken around, and then the box is lifted up. And if you can correctly identify how many of the meeples are actually standing on their little 2 feet, first person to shout it out would win. The one-on-one battles are where it gets a little more intense. 2 players, and it tells you which 2, based on your player order number card, are going to be engaged in a battle. The other players place bets on who they think is going to win based on what they have to do. So if it was this stacking tower one where I have to stack meeples as high as I can go, you would all bet on my opponent because I can't balance things. And another player will read off the back of the card. When they say go, the other players begin. And so for that one, you are stacking. Some of them, one of my personal favorites, even though I'm terrible at it, I just think it's cute. Put your elbow on the table, and then you have 5 of these meeples, and you are trying to be the first person to play the meeples to balance them out onto all 5 of your fingers. Wow, this is like the farthest I got in setting this up for practice. I perform well under pressure. No, I don't. Just kidding. Okay, as expected. So you go through these series of battles. If you win, you get some points. If you bet on the person who did win, you get some points. And there's a whole host of these little individual one-on-one challenges that you can play every time. And you won't go through them all each game, so it stays fresh over the course of a few game nights. And so that is Ninja Academy. It's sort of a little party game from Iello, and it normally is $14.99, but it'll be 20% off through February 4th. All right, the next one I have is my last little box game. They have a lot of little box games, actually. It's kind of a little series of theirs. And this is the 2-player offering for this week, since I think I've had a couple weeks where I didn't have a 2-player game, and I know that's very popular right now, especially I know that's mostly what I'm playing, solo and 2-player. So Totten is a classic game from Rainer Knizia, who is a designer who's made probably 500 or 600 games. And like Lost Cities is one of his other really well-known 2-players. But Totten is a game of had many names, actually. I actually own Battle Line. This is the one out from Iello, which I think is the original title from way back in the 90s, I think, when this came out. I don't know. And you're battling over these little stones. All the stone tiles get lined up in the center of the table. You have a hand of cards. They're different suits, numbers 1 through 9, and you are able to play down 3 cards on your side of a stone, 1 card each turn. The opponent's going to play on the other side, and then after 3 cards are on both sides, you assess to see who wins. It is a battle of the numbers. You add up the numbers. Whoever has the most numbers wins. However, there are ways and hands that you can compose that are stronger than just adding up the numbers. So if you get a straight 1, 2, 3, that is better than my 7, 6, 2. Even though those numbers are higher, mine isn't a straight, yours is, you would win this stone. Things like having a 3 of a kind is better than a straight. Having a straight flush, so a straight of the same color, that's the strongest. And then of course how high or valuable your straight is is also better. So if I have straight of 1, 2, 3 in red, but you have 2, 3, 4 in blue, you would win because that is a higher value than mine. But if I just had a random set of numbers, 7, 8, 9, but not the right colors, and you had 1, 2, 3 in one color, that is better than my nonsensical straight. So you're fighting over these little stones. If you can win 3 in a row, you win the game, or if you can win 5 anywhere out in the big line. I think there's 9 of them or so. And once you've kind of got that down, there's also these tactical cards that you can add in that change up the gameplay and let you remove one from your opponent's side or one from your side, or take it back into your hand, or add some variations in there that make it a lot meaner. So that is Totten, and it's been around for years and years and years. If you haven't already picked it up or played it, I would highly recommend it, and now is a perfect time because it's 20% off through next week. There's even a Totten 2, which we have in store. And I forgot to say I actually haven't played it. I just knew that we had to feature this original one just because it's so great. Alrighty, now for the two bigger box games. The first one I have is the new one, and that's kind of why I chose Iello this week, because I wanted to play and talk about Katara, because it had been on our radar for quite some time. And we finally got it in, I think, actually right before Christmas, but I haven't had a chance to give it a go. It is an area control game, which is one of my favorite types of games, where you have like a map, or well, in this case a map, and you have little peoples that you are trying to spread out on the map and control areas to claim points. One of the more popular ones that we've had over the years is Small World, where you are trying to spread your little fantasy races across the board and then have them retire and spring up new ones. I had a lot of similarities here with this one, but it didn't, it was really streamlined. So whereas Small World has all these moving components and pieces, this one has a map, and this is the 2-player map. It's much smaller, so it's very competitive for 2. The 3 to 4 player map, the 3-player map and the 4-player map are on either sides of this board. And so the area that you have to work with depends on the number of players that you have, which is great because it keeps it tense. I played on this 2-player map, and you are going to draft cards, and that's the neat thing about this game, is everything's contained on a card. That will be the drafting, recruiting, movement, scoring, and management. And when you draft your card, you can kind of put it in a little line, and on your turn you're going to walk through the different cards that you have, and having multiples indicates multiples of the strength that you have. So if I have 3 movements here on this card that I drafted from round 5, which is the end of the game, they're a bit stronger, I would get to move 3 times. Movement is important because you don't want all your pieces in one area. You want to be able to spread them out, but that costs actions. Having more cards in a line with more of those little movement symbols will allow you to move further in one turn. You need symbols on the cards to actually even be able to draft. The drafting is as a line up on your table that you can see, but you can't take all of them. You have to have, I pulled out a card here that had a draft symbol on it. There at the top shows you that you can draft 1. If you have multiple cards like that, it tells you further and further along the line that you're allowed to choose from, so you have a greater choice that you can take and add to your pool. But those people that you add to the board are also on here, so you need to take ones that have maybe multiple different types of your meeples, so you can add them to your spaces on the board. Because you want strength in numbers, because if you're going to move into an area that has your opponent, you have to have more people as you go in there, and if you do, that will cause them to retreat and have to move backwards. You want to move certain types of meeples into the ruin areas, because that gives you points at the end of each of your during your scoring phase. And on the cards, there may even be extra points. So between all those things, you're trying to get more and more points by controlling more and more an area of the board. Now, the more cards you have, the more people you have to feed. That is dependent on how far you're spread on these plains areas to get food. If you're not, if you're mostly on the scoring points in the center, you might have to lose some of your cards, which weakens your strength for the next round. It was really straightforward. Kind of take a card, play some people, move them, score some points. And you only play, I think it's 6 rounds with 2 players, or 7, and then a few more with 3 or 9 players. And it was a quick, kind of deceptively simple area control game, because there wasn't a lot to the rules, but there was quite a bit to think about. And that is Katara from Iello. So that was our new strategy feature. And it normally is $34.99, but we'll have it on sale through next Thursday at 20% off. The last one I have to talk about is probably my favorite Iello game. It came out probably 5 years ago now, but feels like a couple years ago. It's called Bunny Kingdom. And it's from Richard Garfield, which is the designer of Magic the Gathering. He also did King of Tokyo, so he's got a few board games under his belt. Now that I said that out loud, it sounds wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's right. He also designed a few other games for other companies as well, so he's definitely well versed. But this one is a card game, but it has a board, and the board is this magical kingdom. And you want to, if you can see, there's grids of like, oh, it's upside down. Sorry. Like A1 or A2. It has different squares, and you have a whole handful of adorable little bunnies that you are trying to multiply, like bunnies do, all over your board to create large fiefdoms of your bunnies. And if you can put them in castles and have them gathering lots of different resources in a giant connected area, you're going to score lots of points. And there's 4 rounds. You get to score the same points each round. So as you grow, hopefully you get more and more points each round. It is also a card drafting game. So it comes with a giant deck of cards. This is just a handful of them. But on the cards, they have those little coordinates. So this would be B1. When you look at your hand, you're going to keep 2 cards that you're going to play, which is place face up, so everyone can see what you have claimed, and then you're going to pass your hand, like the little battle one did. You pass your hand, and you'll get some more cards, and you play down some more as well. Now, the cards at the end of the round, when you keep them, then you're going to have to build all these things. You're going to be able to put your bunnies out on those coordinates. If you can connect your squares orthogonally, which is a great board game word that is the opposite of diagonally. So instead of being like this, it's actually just straight above or beside on those squares, and have buildings built that you put your little bunnies in. You will connect, you'll get to multiply the number of different resources that are collected, which are the types of spaces they're on, plus the number of towers, or multiplied by the number of towers that you have in your little fiefdoms, and you may have multiple little ones across the board, each scoring individually. You get some points. There's also other cards that allow you to have special buildings that give you kind of premier resources that you can connect that aren't printed on the board, but you add to the board. And my personal favorite, which are these sky towers, they're so small so you can't see them, but there's these little towers. So if I have one in this kingdom and I get that, I get to put another one of those in another fiefdom somewhere else on the board, and suddenly 2 fiefdoms that were scoring individually have merged, and if they have multiple towers and multiple resources, I'll be able to score even more points. And the points, of course, are little carrot, golden carrots that you are trying to win because you are bunnies. But that is Bunny Kingdom, and so there's other things like endgame scoring cards and things that you're able to keep privately for yourself until the end of the game and things like that. But it isn't overly complicated. There are a few pieces, but mostly it's the bunnies, the card games, the buildings, and the towers, and that space that you're trying to control. It has great replayability because there's definitely luck in the cards that you're drawing. Sometimes you'll be able to get groups of things in the right areas with the right bonus cards from the end of the game and things like that, but it's just fantastic. So that is Bunny Kingdom, and that is been out for a few years now, but it's still worth checking out if you haven't already, and we'll have it on sale this week for 20% off. It's normally $49.99. And that is all the games I have from Iello this week. So thank you for tuning in. I've got a few viewers. If anyone has any questions, shout them out before I wrap it up. But otherwise, thank you for spending a few minutes of your day with me. And I should say we are still doing delivery and curbside pickup. You just have to call the store and let them know that you want to just have someone bring it out to you. That's fine. Or you can just run in and grab it. It'll be behind the counter. But the store is also open for browsing for, I think, still up to 10 people. So yeah, well, great. Thank you very much and have a wonderful rest of your day and weekend.